Hi, I'm Jeff Murphy, and I'm going to tell you about the path tools in Adobe Photoshop. Um, these are vector-based tools, so they're a little different than the rest of Photoshop, which is raster-based. Raster means it works with pixels. Vectors means it works with PostScript curves, which just means that you can enlarge it and modify it, and you sort of work with it in a whole different way. Once you start working with these tools, you'll understand right away. Okay, and these tools are right here. They start with the pen tool and they go down to the shape tool. And the type tool is also vector-based, and that's why you can, edit your type. If I spelled tools wrong, which is possible, I can edit that. Path tools. It should be path trolls. Path trolls. Quinn would have liked that one. In fact, that might be a great story. So they're editable in a different way. Couldn't do that with pixels. I'm going to throw this guy in the trash after doing that. Path trolls. Okay, let's actually start down here at the bottom just to show you. If I took this guy, actually let's do custom shape because those are a little more fun. And I even looked to see if they have a frame, because here's what I need to use this for. I guess we should start there actually. I want to make this frame. It's an old school frame that goes around Quinn. Right now we have this vignette that we did in the previous tutorial, and I'm going to throw that in the garbage, and we're going to go with the path look instead. Don't worry about that line up there. We're going to get rid of it. It's going to be gone. Obscured. All right. Custom shape tool is under there, and there's all kinds of shapes in here. We can add more from the libraries built into Photoshop. You can find other libraries online. You can add to these to extend on its capabilities. And these, I looked at all these. Like, watch, I can grab one, say, oh yeah, look at that. That looks not as good as I wanted it to look. Now I could make it look better, but that's actually one of the better frames. But look what it did. When I drew with it, it made a shape layer, a whole new layer, which, like any layer, I can change the opacity, change the blending mode. It's just a solid color with a vector-based mask. So this mask is similar to a layer mask, which is vector-based. So I would edit it a little bit differently. Notice I have my pass open, and my Shape 1 vector mask shows up in there. More about that in a minute. All right, I'm going to toss that guy in the garbage and show you how I most often work with paths. They didn't have a frame like the one I wanted. I was looking through a bunch of things online, and I saw, oh, this is a pretty classic frame right there. That's the one I want. So that's the one I'm going to use to trace. So I'm going to take this guy and plunk him over there and scale it up. You might be wondering, well, why don't you just use that frame? Well, it's because it's pretty low resolution, and the quality wouldn't be great. So I'm just, right now, I just changed the opacity so I could see where Quinn is under there to see how I want this thing to work. And stretch it out a little bit, just a hair. All right, something like that looks pretty interesting. Quinn, look, I can line their eyes up. Okay, so I'm going to use this one to trace. You can set this back to 100%. I'm just going to use this as my template, basically. And then I'm going to delete it. Okay. In fact, you know what I should do? Maybe to make it easier for y'all to see, is see if I go to threshold. All right, I'm going off the grid here. I'm going to do an adjustment layer. Threshold, just to see if I can find a way to show that black and white. I'm not sure if that's going to work so great, but it's fun playing with. Yeah. All right, let's throw that in the garbage. I'm going to use this just to trace. All right, and to do that, I'm going to use this pen tool. Okay, now most students hate this pen tool when they first work with it. Actually, let's throw away some stuff here. This is one I did earlier. This is take 2 for this tutorial. Because the last one was 20 minutes. I'm trying to cut it down. Okay, so if I talk fast, I'm apologizing. That's not helping me be speedy, Jeff. Come on. All right. Now, okay, let's just work in this gray area here for a minute, just to show you how this works. If I click straight lines up, first of all, notice it made a filled shape. That is because I need to click on this guy, and I should go ahead and just make a new path. Now watch. This time when I do the exact same thing and click 4 points, no fill, just a path. If I click off the path, it's gone. It's because the second one right here, the second icon, is just for paths, whereas the first icon is for shape layers. Okay, so those are some pretty important things right there. And it pretty much knows I want to use the path if I make a new path. So there we go. I'm going to undo a few times and show you how this actually works better. Normally you don't do straight lines with this. The whole beauty of it, well, unless you're trying to trace a straight line, but the beauty of this is that you can make a perfect curve with a very few points. So first of all, under here is a freeform pen tool. Don't use that. If you use that, it'll make a bunch of points along something like if I go, there's gonna be a horrible line there. Okay, now it wants me to finish it up. Okay, so instead, just use the pen tool, and after some practice, you will probably not love it, at least appreciate its beauty. All right, it draws Bezier curves. All right, so watch. I clicked on that point, and I didn't let up on the mouse. I just dragged I pulled a handle out of this point. And watch, and now I'm going to put another one down, and I'm also going to drag a little bit. And what that does is it gives me basically an S curve with 3 points. And more importantly, these are really sharp and smooth curves. Now to do this next one, I actually should have put it down a little further, right on the apex here, but I'm not going to edit it now. I'm going to edit it all in the end. To do the next point, watch, if I just went and drew it, because this line is coming out of here pointing down, it wants to send the line down, not out to the side. And so it doesn't matter how much I drag this guy here. Oops, see, now it's going to put another point. Command Shift C. What I have to do to make this guy come out at a different angle is actually hold down the Option, and you see when I get over that handle, it turns into a Convert Point tool. That's actually buried under here. And what that does is if I click on it with my Convert Point tool, I can drag it without changing the way that this handle is working. That's what's important. If I was to not convert it first, and move this handle, it would also move this handle because these guys try to work together as a team. And basically, we're working as a team by default. So when I move one, it moves the other. I just broke into that teamwork and put a kibosh on it. Okay, now I can drag. Now normally that's a great thing because it means your paths will be super smooth. All right, now I can come down here and pull this curve out. Again, I don't need to make this perfect. I'll come back and fix it later. Now here, I definitely need to Option click on this guy because this curve is going to loop all the way around here before it starts to follow this, and that won't be good. So I'll take that handle so it follows the line where I expect the line to be going out, follows this curve here, and then I can drag these handles really long to help define this curve. I can come over here, and again I click and I'm dragging. I'm always clicking and dragging to pull these handles out. Alright? Again, here I'm going to have to, actually this might be a good place to show this because you should be able to see this real well. If I don't Option click on this point and I just try to draw another point here, watch what's going to happen. See, it's going to come out of there following that handle. And if I try to move that handle, like if I drag my, see how it moves the handle, the line coming in to the point? Clearly that's not going to work for me. So let's back up here a little bit to get that last point, and Option click on this. Oops, did that work? Yes. I got the wrong tool still though. I need my pen tool again. And then I'm back in business. Okay. So always option click when I'm coming into a point like that, where my outgoing point and ingoing point are coming from basically the same direction. Option click, convert point tool. We head this way with that guy. This would actually be a little easier if I could zoom out just a little bit, but I'm afraid you guys won't be able to see it if I do that, so I'm not gonna. And sometimes I need to draw really long handles because I probably put that point down a little further, but I'm really trying to do this with very few points. And I'm doing a pretty good job of it, I think. Okay, again, we're getting right to the end here. So I option click on that one, pull this curve out, and finally come back to the very beginning, and voila. Okay, now I can edit. And I'm gonna wanna, now when I stroke this, it's gonna be a little forgiving, but first of all, here's my path. Let's call it frame path. And if I unclick it, if I click outside over here, so that my layer's not selected, and my path isn't selected, it looks like it disappears. But if I save this as a Photoshop document, my path will be saved with it. All right, so that's the beauty of it. The default will be saved with it. Let's do some edits though. Let's select it. Now here's this direct selection tool lets me take individual points and move them. This top tool, the path selection tool, selects the whole path, just like it says. I just need to work with individual points here. So I can go and I can click on them and I can move them around. I can adjust the handles. Again, this is just a little easier if I do this after my path is drawn. I can even move them with the little arrows on screen. So shorten some of these guys up. All right, now I'm not going to make this perfect since I feel like I'm playing beat the clock here. And I always say that, and my students probably think that means I'm going to stop and I keep working. Because I am a little bit of a perfectionist. Okay, this guy needs to move here. No, I promise I'm going to stop right now. Okay, what do we do with this thing? Now we have it. First of all, I can throw my template away, and I can barely see my path. So just to show you guys that it's there, let's show you what these icons do. First icon, let's start there. Let's pick out a really bold color like bright green. And the other thing I'm going to do, see it's on the photo filter layer right now. That's the layer that's selected, targeted, I should say. I don't want to target my photo filter layer with anything I'm going to do here, so I'm going to make a new layer. And for the frame, this is going to take the frame once I convert it to pixels, once I make some pixel-based something out of it. So watch, if I take this guy and I drag it down to the first icon, I get a big red frame because red is my foreground color. And it's not a shape layer, it's actually pixels. All right? I've asked to make it into pixels. Might as well, since everything else in the document is pixels, it's not going to hurt it to have something else pixels. Right? I don't want that. So actually, let's just undo so I don't have to keep adding a layer. The second one is the stroke layer. Now, if you see, if I go in there very, very closely, you can see it's stroked. The very thin pencil, which looks like, well, it looks not so good. So I'm going to undo that and show you the trick about this one, because this is where it's actually very powerful. The stroke is dependent on what tools you have selected. If you don't have any tools selected, it's going to do the pencil at like 1 pixel, and it's going to look like bud. So what I would do is pick the brush tool. Now watch the difference here. I'm going to pick a big brush. I'll use this guy right here. Ooh, that's a little too big. Let's make them smaller and do the same thing. Stroke them. Now you can see how different that looks. It gives me, I actually like this brush a lot for what I'm trying to do here, and this is the brush I'm going to use. A little too thick though. All right, I don't need anything that big. Let's go ahead and look at it. And I don't want it red. All right, so undo. Let's pick like a brown, dark brown, like that, a little lighter. And let's shrink this down to about 30 something. 33 is a good number. I'll do it one last time. Now remember, I have this layer to accept it, this frame. Now it's pixel based, and it's actually on this layer. I still have my path, but my layer is now independent of my path. This layer that says frame on it, I can move around, do whatever. I'm actually going to undo that move because I want to make sure they're still registered, like my path, and I'm going to use this here for another thing, because the next step is I want to fill this area outside of it with a darker brown, right? Well, that's easy to do too. Look, this third icon is a selection, turns it into a selection, makes some marching ants. So with that, I can say, you know, inverse. We'll do the same sort of thing we did when we made the vignette. We have this, the inverse of my original path selected, and I can come down here, and I can say solid color, and under solid color I can pick a darker brown, and I can say OK. And that basically gave me a solid color with a layer mask, and this is a regular layer mask, not a vector-based layer mask, just a regular layer mask. I'm going to move that under the frame so the frame is in the front. Now you're probably thinking, hey Jeff, I can't really see that frame. It's, you know, dark brown against a darker brown. And you would be right. I had that same idea, that same thought. And luckily in Photoshop there are some layer styles that I can use to modify this some and give it some dimension. So look at the frame here. I'm going to keep it with this background. We'll target the frame and we'll say layer style, and we'll do this bevel and emboss. And right away you can see, because I got the little preview thing selected, it has like a highlight around it now. Let's blow this up. Whoa. Did I just do undo a million times? It's so funny that my machine does that. Do you see that? When I zoom in and out, it like captures my previous state somehow. It's like Ghost in the Machine. Okay, anyway, my layer style. So much for my beating my time. My layer style, I can change the size, I can soften this, but it gives me this highlight. In fact, I can even change the angle of the light if I want to. So here's my highlight because the light's coming from this direction now. I can change my contour. Go with that second one. But now it looks like a dimensional, like a gold, embossed gold something on there. And it has this kind of interesting little dotted line that I actually am liking on this, since it looks kind of skeletal. And it looks like some of those chains, chain necklaces that I see. So we're going to go with that. Anyway, that's a layer style. And once you apply one, it'll have a little FX symbol in here. I can turn it on and off if I want to. And if I want, I can edit it. I can go back up here and I can say, oh, you know what? Oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Let's do something to bevel and emboss. Let's click on it and we can say, let's make the size a little bit smaller or change the angle of the lighting or whatever. But I don't really want to. All right, so I can just double click on bevel and emboss to bring that up. And I can even add some more from here if I want to, if I wanted to look at some other things. But that's enough for me. Okay, let's zoom out, Command minus, and take one final look at what we've made. I could crop this down because I don't really need all the brown on the top and the bottom, but I think that's everything I need to say about path tools. See ya!